Hey everybody, Johnny Cage here, welcoming you back to another game review. This time we are taking a look at King of the Dragons, developed and published by Capcom, released in arcade September 10th, 1991, and ported to the Super Nintendo in April of '94, which is the version we will be looking at today. As you begin your travels through the Kingdom of Mouse, you'll face many enemies, striking down armies of monsters that have begun to overtake the land, as well as their leader, the Red Dragon Gildas. To do this, it will require the fellowship of brave heroes, and throughout their quest, your party will level up at different point intervals, increasing their health bars, as well as picking up new weapons and armor to aid them in their adventure. King of the Dragons follows in the same footsteps as other Capcom beat-em-ups they were well known for during the 16-bit era, with the distinction of this title being the fantasy setting and 5 different character classes you can select from, those being Elf, Wizard, Fighter, Cleric, and Dwarf, each of which have their own underlying strengths and weaknesses, making each of them stand out from one another in playstyle. The more melee-focused selections are the Fighter and Dwarf, with the Fighter having the stronger attack but weak magic ability, while the Dwarf is more agile with slightly better magic at his disposal. On the other hand, you can go with more magic and ranged-focused characters in the Elf and Wizard, with the Elf having great range with his bow and arrow, while the Wizard has better attack speed and the strongest magic in the game, both of which were wielding the stronger lightning magic spell. The last option, the Cleric, is a somewhat balanced class, with his defense being better than any other character in the game, also boasting solid melee and magic stats, though he is quite slow. After your characters are selected, you'll set off on your adventure with 1 or 2 players, spanning 16 levels in all. I really appreciate the fact that design is not only unique from one location to another, but also no level overstays its welcome, some of which are incredibly short, only lasting a few minutes before culminating in a boss fight, which can be as varied in how you decide to approach them as the level designs themselves. This game is no walk through Middle-earth, however, as it will really force you to play more strategically than your average beat-em-up. Many of the enemies will block your attacks and can be quick to counter if you aren't ready to react, and on top of that, the game only provides you with 2 credits to continue your adventure regardless of the difficulty setting. Though if you are diligent enough, you can discover up to 3 Yashichi free credit items hidden throughout the stages. And while there is a timer on the top of the screen of each level, it is really just there to keep you on edge, and doubtful you'll ever see it drop to 0, which would result in the death and the timer restarting. The control layout is simple and sensible, with Y attacking and B jumping. You can also select a button for your shield if you would prefer, with the default block being holding back on the D-pad, not unlike Capcom's flagship fighting game series Street Fighter. This allows you to defend against attacks, an action you'll have to get accustomed to if you hope to make it especially far into the game, though the Elf and Wizard won't have this available if you choose either of them. I really like this addition of a defend button, as it's something I can't ever really recall seeing in other 16-bit beat-em-ups, though it can take a little while to get used to, as you'll have to be standing perfectly still and then press the button or hold back on the D-pad to use it. Certainly something to work on getting the timing down on correctly, as you will likely get bashed in the face the first few times you try putting it into practice. Lastly, you have the Extra Joy button, as the game calls it, assigned to the X button, which is actually just the magic power each character has. This is the special attack of the game, and just like other beat-em-up brethren, this move will eat up 8 to 10 of your health depending on the character each time you use it. I really love the sprite work in this game. Capcom, which could practically do no wrong in the SNES era, really went the extra mile in the detail here. Sort of reminds me of highly detailed miniatures you might paint for an actual D&D session, which really liven up this world. I also really like the hero's equipment would change with the sprite itself, even occasionally altering attack animations, giving you a sense your character was really getting stronger. The overworld is a nice touch as well, not something you see a lot, but it does add to your journey as you trek across the land. The audio in the game is decent, as it gets you in a fighting mood, but perhaps lacks what you might expect from a game set in a fantasy universe, the exception being the melody that plays after you defeat a boss. I did, however, really appreciate the sound effects used when the character levels up, which reminds me of pro wrestler Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Nowadays, if you want to pick up a cartridge of King of the Dragons, it's going to cost you a pretty penny, with the average cost sold on eBay going for around 75 American dollars. Though if you really want some sort of physical version of the game, you can get it as part of the Capcom Classics Collection Volume 2 on the PS2 for around 20 bucks. And while the collection is also available on the original Xbox, it's considerably more there. King of the Dragons really is a standout beat-em-up in a sea of final fights and Streets of Rage type brawlers, offering a varied control layout with a robust cast of characters to select from compared to other genre offerings. And if you dig the fantasy look of the game but want something a little more akin to Final Fight, try taking a look at Knights of the Round. It was also released by Capcom a few years prior and has similar gameplay but focuses on the King Arthur lore. If I did have any complaints with this offering, it would be that the game can get a little too hard, especially after the first half. This was, after all, a port of an arcade game designed to eat quarters. The easy difficulty in the game is more than enough of a challenge, but if you find yourself struggling, have no fear, as there is a 99 credits cheat available. I'm going to give King of the Dragons an enchanting 8.5 out of 10. Now, this is a game that should definitely be included in conversations about the best beat-em-ups ever, and hopefully becomes more accessible in time, as Capcom does have a couple of their more well-known SNES titles available through the Nintendo Switch Online service. Thank you everyone for watching, and if you would like to stay posted on new game reviews as I upload them, please click the subscribe button, as well as checking out the link in the description below for my Twitch channel where I stream most evenings. I'll talk to you all later on.